को दिखाना चाहेंगे कि किस तरह से अटैक हुआ है। ये सिर्फ
बहुत
एक इलाका ठीक है, हर तरफ जो आप देख रहे हैं कांच टूट गए हैं, सब कांच टूट गए हैं। यहाँ पे लोग जो रहते थे इससे खचाखच भरा।
मैं श्रवण आपको जो तस्वीरें देख पा रहा हूँ, बिल्कुल
ये तस्वीरें जो देख पा रहे हैं कि कंप्लीटली किस तरह से
सोहेल ये तस्वीरें देखिए,
बर्बाद कर दिया गया है।
सोहेल अगर आप मुझे सुन पा रहे हैं तो ये तस्वीरें देखिए, पीछे के इलाके की तस्वीर। वाकई में ओ हो सोहेल, ये तस्वीरें मैं कहूंगा कि ये तस्वीरें कहीं आपको नहीं मिलेंगी। और इतना नुकसान रिहायशी इलाके में, इतना नुकसान हुआ है। मैं अपने सहयोगी सुरेंद्र जी से कहूंगा, सुरेंद्र जी आप जो पुलिस के इंस्ट्रक्शन है उसके मुताबिक कैमरे को आगे लेकर आते जाएं। और सोहेल जो तस्वीरें अब हम दिखाने वाले हैं वो तस्वीरें इतनी खतरनाक हैं, पूरे के पूरे घर उड़ चुके हैं, पूरे के पूरे परखच्चे उड़ गए हैं। और यहाँ कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा है। कम से कम ये आप कह लीजिए कि दर्जनों मकान हैं, 2 से 2.5 दर्जन मकान यहाँ पर हैं और सब कुछ जला हुआ है। कम से कम 7वें 8वें फ्लोर तक ये सब कुछ जला हुआ है। श्रवण, हिंदी, अंग्रेजी सभी दर्शक, पूरा भारत इस समय हमें देख रहा है। और ये देखिए आप कितना नुकसान हुआ है। ये देखिए सोहेल हम बयान नहीं कर सकते हैं, ऐसी तस्वीरें हैं। रिहायशी इलाका, बिल्डिंग पूरी जल चुकी है, हर तरफ सिर्फ और सिर्फ तबाही का मंजर है, सिर्फ और सिर्फ तबाही का मंजर, बिल्कुल सिर्फ और सिर्फ तबाही का मंजर है। सोहेल, मैं जहां तक नजर दौड़ा रहा हूं, जहां तक देख रहा हूं, कोई अपना सामान इकट्ठा कर रहा है, किसी को कुछ समझ नहीं आया। एसी, घर के मकान, दरवाजे सब कुछ टूट गया, सब कुछ यहां पर जल चुका है। और लोग, ये तस्वीरें आप देखते रहिए। मैं कहूंगा श्रवण आप आगे आइए और इंग्लिश के दर्शकों को भी बताइए। हमसे लगातार ये कहा जा रहा है, ये तस्वीरें वाकई श्रवण इतनी भयावह तस्वीरें।
I would just like to tell all our viewers right now that grim news coming in of the attacks that have basically taken place. Right now, we are the only global network that is reporting from a key residential area. As you can see, this particular building, which is roughly, I could say, about at least 10 floors that I can count right now. 14 floors. That's 14 floor building that has come under complete attack. A missile attack that took place earlier in the day. We'll try and also get in some sense because we've been asked to move around a little away from this place. So let me just go because you've seen the police as well as the Ukrainian army that is already here. People who are all standing here because this attack that took place. This attack that actually took place was around 4 o'clock, between 4 to 5 is what we are being told, 4 to 5 when this attack came in. And what's important to point out is that this particular building doesn't look like that it was evacuated when the missile attack actually took place. Right now also, as you can see, people have actually gone back to their houses to try and bring whatever is left right now. Completely charred, as you see inside the building. It is completely charred. People, as I understand from talking to a few people here, is that there were in some of the apartment, people were still sleeping. We're not very sure as far as casualties are concerned. No official are around with whom we could actually get in some details of the casualties that may have occurred because of this strike that took place earlier in the day. As I can tell you, since we weren't very far away, because we've also been at the center of Kyiv, it is important to point that out. बोलिए।
8 लोग के घायल होने की खबर है इसमें। और
आपने इस वक्त यूक्रेनियन पुलिस से
बिल्कुल मैंने उनसे बात की। 8 लोग, उन्होंने कहा 8 people were wounded and one of them is in a serious condition in hospital. तो 8 लोग घायल हैं और जिसमें से एक की हालत बहुत गंभीर बनी हुई है। उन्होंने ये भी कहा कि यहाँ पर लोग रह रहे थे, पिछले इलाके में जैसे ही धमाका हुआ वो लोग डर के मारे बाहर निकले और कई लोग उसमें से घायल हैं जो इस समय अस्पताल में जिंदगी और मौत की जंग लड़ रहे हैं। लेकिन आप देखिए धमाके की तीव्रता कितनी ज्यादा थी। आप देखिए वहां तक कम से कम 5 बिल्डिंग होंगी जहां तक ये धमाके का शोर और उसका असर दिखाई दे रहा है। श्रवण। ये 5 बिल्डिंग है, 5 बिल्डिंगों तक आप देख सकते हैं अभी भी उसमें कुछ लोग रह रहे हैं और हमारी कोशिश यही है कि हम हर एक तस्वीर दिखाएं, लेकिन जो तस्वीर इस वक्त हम देख पा रहे हैं वाकई ये रिहायशी इलाका है, लोग यहाँ पर रह रहे थे, छोटे बच्चे हमें नजर आ रहे हैं और कुछ ऐसी तस्वीरें यूक्रेनियन
थोड़ा ये भी कोशिश करूंगा कि हमारे जो अंग्रेजी के दर्शक देख रहे हैं वो भी जानकारी ले लें इसमें. लेट मी जस्ट टेल आवर व्यूअर्स राइट नाउ वी आर द ओनली नेटवर्क दैट इज रिपोर्टिंग फ्रॉम द वेरी प्लेस वेयर एन अटैक, a missile attack took place. We're being told that there were people who were basically living on the front side of this particular building when the attack took place, and that's the reason why you perhaps can see what is the remains of that particular building. Very heart-wrenching images right now. If I can ask Surendra Rawatji to show a picture of a lady who's still trying to get hold of whatever is remaining. I must say that if there is a picture that describes the pitfalls or rather the shortcomings of a war and what a war basically does, take a look at that image on the 4th floor. Ravitji, please try and show how Ukrainians are suffering because of that one decision that has been taken by the Russian president. The fact of the matter is that the collateral damage between the two nations happen to be the people who are now suffering. Look at what is really happening as to how people are out on the streets. They have lost their homes and it's extremely painful, Niranjan, to see how a residential area has basically come under attack. So when the president of Russian Federation basically says that a military operation is taking place in the Donbas region, it is absolutely false. I would say it is absolutely false because today Republic Media Network is reporting from right at the center of Kyiv where this attack took place. Questions should now be raised about when will the global world wake up to the misery of the people of Ukraine, because at the end of the day it is the people who are suffering. What you're looking at right now is the number of people who have suffered because of this mindless attack that has taken place. Today, once again, let me just tell our viewers, while we are reporting right from ground zero, getting you live images of the operation that is still being carried out. Some parts we are told that some of the army is still inside. They are trying to clear off the area. The Ukrainian police is also inside right now, and they are trying to take a sense of what's really happened. We are not very sure the nature of the strike. While we are being told that this was a missile strike that took place around between 4 to 5 is what we are being told, but the nature of the strike is still not known. In terms of casualties, Mridul, you were saying 11 people.
Yes.
11 people have sustained injuries, severe injuries is what we are being told. Some of them have already been hospitalized is what we are being told after speaking to the Ukrainian police. But Niranjan, while I'm just quickly diverting a little bit away from this image to just show you so that people understand that this is not an isolated area. This is not an isolated area. Just a rough estimate, I may be completely wrong, but a rough estimate, over thousands of people must be living here, because look at the kind of structure. This entire structure where people basically are living, as you can see right now, they're completely all over. This entire area is, look at this entire area. There is a playground here, so of course this is a residential area, a complete residential area, and now people are out on the streets. They're picking up their bags, they're leaving this place. And I once again Niranjan, just take a look. Rawat ji, आप अगर थोड़ा दिखा सकते हैं चौथे मंजिले में जो लेडी हैं जो अपने सामान निकालने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, वो तस्वीरें देखिए. I want people, everyone across the globe, to watch these images, these heart-wrenching images, and to really say whether what is really happening right now on the ground, is it really justified? Is it really justified to see how someone who's suffering to this extent, where they're trying to piece together whatever is remaining right now? And that's perhaps the message that global leaders should take a look at, or perhaps even understand the misery of people, because it looks like there is no end to this battle right now. While on the one hand, you've had Russia to come up with what many people here in Ukraine are seeing absolute excuses for just trying to enter Ukraine. The latest information, while we stay with the pictures, I'll ask Surendraji to stay with the pictures while I describe what is really happening right now on the ground. If I can ask मृदुल जो इलाका है, इस इलाके के नाम और थोड़ा डिटेल्स आप थोड़ा हिंदी में भी बताइए ताकि हिंदी के दर्शकों भी थोड़ा समझे. वापस अंग्रेजी में भी हम कोशिश करेंगे कि ये चीज़ें समझाएं.
बिल्कुल, ये तस्वीरें दिखाते हुए मैं यही बताना चाहूँगा कि ये रिहायशी इलाका है और ये इलाका कहाँ पर है, किसका नाम है, क्या इसका नाम है, ये भी मैं अपने दर्शकों को बताने की पूरी कोशिश करूँगा. जो जानकारी अभी तक हमें बाहर से प्राप्त हुई है, अंदर से प्राप्त हुई है, सीधे हम उसी पते पर पहुँच गए जहाँ पर हमें जैसे ही पता चला कि धमाका हुआ है. इस जगह का नाम है ओलेस्केंद्रे कोस्टेस और ये स्ट्रीट है, एक स्ट्रीट है जहाँ पर लोग रहते हैं. रिहायशी इलाका, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 कम से कम 10 ऐसी बिल्डिंग है, 14 माले की 10 बिल्डिंग जहां तक धमाकों की गूंज से सब कुछ दहल उठा. कांच टूट गए, लोग परेशान हो गए, घर के बाहर आ गए. और इसके सामने की तस्वीरें भी हमने दिखाई थी. धमाका इतना तेज था कि धमाका यहां पर हुआ और सामने तक के कांच फूट गए हैं. शमन, कुछ कहना चाह रहे हैं आप?
So let me just come back right now. This is the location. Let me just Alexandra is the place where we are right now, which is roughly about 17 to 18 minute drive from where we have been earlier broadcasting from the other vantage point. But as you can see, images right now on your screens of the latest attack that took place around between 4 to 5 is what we are being told. The exact timing is still not known, but the attack that took place, the missile attack directly targeting a residential area in Alexandra area, and this is one of the many places that have basically come under attack. According to a US senator, at least 3 dozen missiles have been launched over Kyiv, and in fact we are being told that in terms of areas that have come under attack, they are no longer military bases of Ukraine, but residential areas of this building have basically come under attack. And look at the impact of this attack. At least I would say at least 10 columns of this building has been completely damaged. As you see right now on your screens, clear reflection of people who were still staying, people perhaps who did not even have the time to leave their place or evacuate at the right time, because the moment Russia declared this war, remember, people were in a jiffy. They were basically trying to leave the area. But as I said from the earlier broadcast, that not everyone was in a position to leave or pack everything in one bag and leave immediately. A lot of people that we spoke to, they were saying that it is quite difficult, and where exactly will we be going? The airspace is completely closed, and as far as road transportation is concerned, there is no facilities that are available. There is no one to really help the people of Ukraine at this point in time, and that is the reason why Ukrainians are saying that we have been left in a lurch. Is the West really listening to what's really happening on the ground? Are we to once again see a rerun of what we saw just about a few months ago in Afghanistan, when Afghans were left on their own? Today it is the turn of Ukrainians. Ukrainians have been left in a complete lurch, and for those who are basically saying that this is a war between the two nations where only the military is involved, absolutely no. It is not just the militaries that have been involved, it's the people who are suffering right now. Because look at these images. What does it really look like? How lives have been overturned right now overnight. People have lost their near and dear ones. While casualty numbers, we're not very sure, but the Ukrainian police with whom we just interacted in a short while back. Can I also ask my camera person Surendraji to just zoom into Mridul's phone, because we have got an image right now of the very time, the very few minutes after the attack took place. I'm not very sure how much one will be able to say, but let's make an attempt. And if Niranjan, you can hear me and you can tell me that whether you are being able to see what's there on the phone right now. And this is just the minutes after the attack took place. And meanwhile, what we'll try and do is we'll send this image to our newsroom so that we'll try and send this image to our newsroom so that viewers can take a look at what happened just minutes after the attack took place. So let's come back. Let's once again come back and try and show you what's really happening. Let's move around a little bit and show people what's happening. I'm not too sure, Mridul, if you can also check with some of the locals, if they can perhaps speak to us, if they can speak in English, perhaps describe what really happened. Yeah. And we'll see what they can say, describe what's really happening, because all that I can tell you, Niranjan, we are one of the few global networks who are currently right at the spot, at ground zero, to get you live images, a live report from the very place where the missile attack took place. So let me quickly recap once again of what we are watching right now. Just look at this. An elderly person who's basically trying to help people, residents who are basically coming in and collecting the debris here right now. This entire debris that is being taken away from here. You also have, you clearly have large-scale destruction that is actually taking place because of this attack right now. This entire area has been completely charred. As you can see right now, what I can see from my naked eyes is that at least 10 floors have been completely charred. And look at these images, Niranjan. There are clothes that are lying around. I'll ask Surendraji to come a little closer and let me just try and show you. Well, it's heart-wrenching, but this is the reality of war that I'm just showing you, viewers. And perhaps it is time that people wake up to the damages that are caused by a war. Look at this, a cycle, I can spot a cycle, a helmet here. There are some clothes that are lying all around, toys that you can see, toys of kids. Those are small boxes of perhaps some jewelry item that is kept here. As you can see, I can still get the stench right now of the remains of the attack. The complete area has been charred. It's very unfortunate, but take a look at this. This is a kitchen. Surendraji, if you can come a little closer, give a look. Right, take a look at this. This is on right here on the Surendraji, the ground floor. If you can just not go, let's not go really very close, because it's still hot, I'm told, because obviously it's going to take some time before it cools down, and for anyone to basically enter and also carry on the kind of investigation that is basically required. Because remember, for the Ukrainians right now is to basically also establish the fact that this attack was carried out by the Russian army. But there is enough evidence that the Ukrainians have been pointing out that residential areas have now basically come under attack of the all these areas that have basically come under attack. And important to point out here is that yesterday, when the war actually began, initially it was being limited to the military bases across Ukraine. You've had cities like Kharkiv, from where first reports actually came in of a local of a residential area that came under attack. Perhaps some would say this was an isolated attack, but it turns out that there is an evil design behind this. The evil design is that residential places are now coming under full-scale attack, complete attack of the Russian army. And it's very unfortunate. Take a look at the people are just, carrying one small plastic bag and leaving. They're leaving from here. The images, as I said, I'm repeating at the cost of sounding very repetitive, but it's very difficult to witness something like this unfolding just before our eyes. The reality of this century, where once again you're looking at what perhaps was back, the images that came in from the World War, decades ago, what Europe had essentially witnessed. Perhaps this is the beginning of what would one say another long battle, another long conflict. I would like to bring in my colleague Mridul once again. Mridul, एक सवाल जो आपसे ये करना चाहूँगा, क्योंकि जब हम लोग से बात करते हैं लगातार वो ये कह रहे हैं कि यही है वो असलियत, कि आखिरकार जो हम देख रहे हैं कि ये ग्राउंड पे जो हो रहा है ये मिलिट्री बेसिस नहीं है. अगर किसी को दिख रहा, अगर किसी को लगता है ये मिलिट्री बेस है तो वो जवाब दे. बट मेरे आंखों के सामने, आपके आंखों के सामने ये वही चीज़ दिख रहा है। एक रेजिडेंशियल एरिया रह रहा है जहाँ पे लोग रह रहे थे, जहाँ पे लोग कल रात को हो सकता है डिनर कर रहे थे, लोग साथ में बैठ के चंद कुछ मिनट साथ में थे, पर आज उनके लिए वो सुबह बहुत ही अलग है।
बिल्कुल। और मैं बयान नहीं कर सकता श्रवण, हम देख सकते हैं किचन में बर्तन हैं, गीले कपड़े सूख रहे थे, बच्चों की साइकिल, थालियां, कांच, सब कुछ टूट गया, एक बार में सब कुछ बिखर गया। और जो तस्वीरें इस समय हम देख पा रहे हैं, 14 माले की ये इमारत है। कम से कम 5 से 7 ऐसी इमारतें हैं जहां तक धमाका हुआ तो सब कुछ दहल उठा। मैं आपको तस्वीरें दिखाने की कोशिश करूंगा। ये 14 माले हैं और हर एक जगह सिर्फ और सिर्फ तबाही का मंजर है, तबाही की तस्वीरें हैं। कुछ लोग यहाँ पर रह रहे थे। अभी जो श्रवण आप तस्वीरें दिखा रहे थे वो वाकई देखनी चाहिए, पूरी दुनिया को देखनी चाहिए कि ये तस्वीर, ये कोई मिलिट्री बेस नहीं है, ये वो इलाका है जहां पर लोग रह रहे थे, ये वो इलाका है जहां पर छोटे बच्चे थे, महिलाएं थीं और सभी अपने घर में थे, लेकिन एकाएक धमाके ने सब कुछ खत्म कर दिया।
Absolutely. Whatever little remains right now of this particular building, one is just hoping that perhaps this is not going to be repeated in other parts of Ukraine. But as I was pointing out earlier in the day, the little understanding that I have of covering multiple conflict zones, the reason why I started along with my team yesterday, we decided to leave from Kyiv is only because of the sense that we got that this is no longer going to be limited to the border areas. What the Russians have been trying to tell everyone, to the entire world, that this is about protecting the Donbas region. In fact, when we were speaking to some of the locals, they were essentially indicating that this is going to go way beyond, and that was only the prelude. What you are seeing right now is the real story, the chapter after chapter, one after the other. And the fact of the matter is that it is perhaps the only intention that the Russians right now seem to be having right now is the fact that they want to capture Kyiv, because that would perhaps send across a very strong message. Now let me back that statement. Why am I saying that there is a possibility that the Russians do have a plan to capture Kyiv very soon? That's because not very far from here, the Antonov military airport has basically come under siege. You have the Russian troops who were basically, they were airdropped yesterday. And now what you are seeing is that there is an attempt that is being made by Russia to bring down the Ukrainian government on their knees. This appears to be a clear pressure tactic. The more and more you attack the residential areas, there would be some sort of a pressure on the Ukrainian government to act on it, to decide as to what do they want. Do they want to continue, wage this war? Do they want to fight it back? Or will they essentially surrender? We are seeing, let's try and see if people are going to speak right now. There are some people who are around, they are speaking, while I see some local media who are there. Perhaps after they finish, we'll try and connect with them, and we'll try and, let me just take some permission before. मृदुल, आप अगर एक बार पूछ सकते हैं कि वो बात करेंगे तो हम आगे जाएंगे, क्योंकि इस वक्त ठीक नहीं रहेगा. We'll just wait for the local media to complete speaking to them, and thereafter we'll try and go in. We'll try and speak to some of the people who are basically going inside and getting whatever is left, because a lot of people, because of the attack that appears right now, Niranjan, actually took place at that building, and of course it had its sort of impact across the other buildings that you can see right now. Almost 10 columns have been completely destroyed. We'll see if anyone would like to speak. We would not like to intrude into anyone's space right now. It's a difficult time. Perhaps if they only would like to share what they have actually gone through, then we'll try and get them on our cameras, because it's truly a difficult moment for everyone here in Ukraine, particularly people who are living in this residential building. And of course, for them this is a long battle. For them, perhaps they would never be able to forget what they have had to endure in the last 24 to 48 hours, and perhaps many still praying, that hoping this this is going to end very soon. This entire conflict, which perhaps never benefits the common people. The people, at the end of the day, would only be affected by what's really happening on the ground. So really hoping, joining all the people here in their prayers right now, because what we essentially see is a clear battle that is now out in the open. There is no scope, what we see, of negotiations or no scope of dialogue, because while the Ukrainian president has constantly been referring to the fact that it is a war that Ukraine never chose, it is Russia which has chosen the path of war. You've heard what the US president had to say about Vladimir Putin, calling him an aggressor. And the fact of the matter is that while there have been sanctions that have come in from the West, but as I have been repeating this, will the sanctions really have an immediate effect? While yes, at a larger level, where you're looking at squeezing the financial system of Russia, the oligarchs who've been running the system, they would basically suffer. Not to forget that their economy is in complete tatters. Now with these economic sanctions really coming in, it's going to have its own impact. There's no doubt about that. But what really happens in the interim? It is the people of Ukraine who would still be suffering. I would like to come back a little, go back to these images, because while I try and explain to all our viewers why this is not about just one attack, not about just one building where a handful number of people who are staying, who have lost, perhaps they would be part of the number of casualties. That's the unfortunate part of a war, where at the end of the day, what really happens is that they all become just numbers. But let me once again reiterate that people who've lost their who've lost their life, they are not just numbers, but they are they are a reality check for those who have been completely numbed or are completely drunk in the power that they are enjoying at this point in time. But for how long? It's at the end of the day, it's the people who are going to rise, and we have seen that. We have seen that witnessing unfolding before our eyes, at least in Russia. Perhaps the latest images that came in from St. Petersburg, where there were people who were objecting, people who are protesting about the war that has taken place, people who wanted the war to end. So even in Russia, there is this growing demand that this war needs to stop. Let me also tell our viewers the speech that I was actually hearing in Kyiv of the Ukrainian president. We did ask someone to really translate it for us, and what really touched a lot of Ukrainians right now, that is the reason why you would not really see any kind of anger against the Ukrainian government at this point in time. It does appear that everyone here in Ukraine is in complete solidarity with the Ukrainian government. That is because when Ukrainian president raised this entire issue, saying that look here how Russia is trying to fool everyone. The reason being that Russia has essentially said that Ukraine had plans of bombing Donbas region, to which the Ukrainian president said that will I really bomb the very place where my best friend's mother has been living? Will I really bomb the very place where I was cheering our football team during the Euro Cup? Will I really bomb the very place where I went to the bar to drink after my team actually lost? Do they really believe that that's going to happen? What is very important to state here is that that's the emotional chord that has been touched by the Ukrainian president right now. That is the reason why perhaps there wasn't really the sense of panic when we first landed here in Kyiv, and we went to one of the areas, the Maidan area, where you have the Monument of Independence, the place where the 2014 protests took place, bringing down the pro-Russian president who had to finally flee from the country. That still irks the Russians a lot, and Russians have time and again spoken about what really happened back in 2014. Vladimir Putin has been constantly referring to the 2014 protests when the Ukrainians were up in arms, and they did not want someone who was taking direct orders from Kremlin. And that is the reason why when we went to the Monument of Independence, we had young Ukrainians telling us that look here, That's the monument of independence. Rawatji, I would request you to stay with those visuals while I try and describe what we have seen in the last 48 hours. So coming back to what we saw the moment we landed in Kyiv, and a lot of people were basically asking us this question, that do you really think the war is going to take place? Because what you can see is people moving around freely, people who did not look very upset, or people were not really fearful. And this is a question that even we were surprised with, and that's the reason why we started asking some of the Ukrainians that aren't you really worried? And to that, Pat came a reply that not really, because this time we are going to fight it out. And we know this is going to happen. The invasion is going to happen. And we're going to take it head on. It was just like a matter of fact kind of a reply that came from a lot of Ukrainians, and there is a reason behind it. The reason is very simple. The reason is that Ukrainians are saying that we've been fighting this for the last 8 years, and this is not something very new, and we are willing to take this battle on. But today, what you see on your screens right now, viewers, while there has been an attempt by Russian media perhaps also that and many are lapping it up. The Russian media has lapped it up
because you're live
simply saying that this is to
Shravan, if you can hear me, you're also live on Republic Bharat. So I request both you and Mridul to speak to our viewers in both Republic English and also Republic Bharat.
इस पूरे हमले में घायल हुए हैं, कुछ की हालत गंभीर बनी हुई है. मैं अपने सहयोगी से कहूंगा कि थोड़ा सा और आगे आए, हम उस तरफ तस्वीरें दिखाने की कोशिश करें जो लगातार हम तस्वीरें अपने दर्शकों को दिखा रहे हैं. ये तस्वीरें आप देखिए, यहीं से रूस ने हमला किया और रिहायशी इलाके में बम फोड़ा. किसी का यहाँ पर ये देखिए, किसी का जूता यहाँ पर पड़ा हुआ है. कोई घर में यहाँ पर था, लेकिन एकाएक धमाके के बाद सब कुछ खत्म हो गया. और जो कीव का बीचों बीच इलाका है वो किस तरीके से दहल उठता है, और जो बम यहाँ पर गिरा है उसका आप देखिए कितना असर हुआ है. यहाँ पर देखिए किस तरीके का गड्ढा सा हो गया है, और यहीं पर वो जो मिसाइल है और जो बमबारी हुई थी वो यहीं पर हुई. यही वो गड्ढा है जहां पर हुआ, और उसके बाद किस तरीके से पूरी की पूरी इमारत दहल उठी. कम से कम ये 14 से 15 फ्लोर की इमारत है, और इसमें हर माले में लोग रह रहे थे, और रिहायशी इलाका. ये फिर मैं बता रहा हूं, आप देखिए सिर्फ और सिर्फ तबाही का मंजर आपको यहाँ पर नजर आता है. मैं अपने सहयोगी से कहूंगा थोड़ी और आगे हम आने की कोशिश करें, घर के अंदर क्या तस्वीर है ये हम दिखाने की कोशिश करेंगे. लेकिन इस समय जो तस्वीरें आप देख रहे हैं, यही वो देखिए बम यहीं पर गिरा, और अभी भी हमें यहाँ राख उसकी नजर आती है, और हम थोड़ा करीब नहीं जा सकते क्योंकि जो जलने की बदबू है वो यहाँ से आ रही है, और साथ ही साथ आग आप देख सकते हैं. अभी जो लकड़ियां हैं वो जल रही हैं, काली काली बिल्कुल लकड़ियां आपको दिखाई दे रही होंगी, तो हम हाथ नहीं लगा सकते हैं. सुबह का वक्त था, और जो हम सुबह से तस्वीर बता रहे हैं कि 4 से 5 बजे जो बम धमाके हुए थे, एकाएक हमने बताया दर्शकों को कि कम से कम 26 ऐसी जगह थी, 26 बम फेंके गए. उसमें से ये तस्वीरें आप देखिए, यहां पर फेंका गया है. ये आप देखिए, ये तस्वीरें आप देखिए किस तरीके का माहौल है यहां पर. ये देखिए सब कुछ ग्लोब किस तरीके से टूटा हुआ है, ये हाथ में इसको तबाह कर दिया है बिल्कुल. और यही तबाही का मंजर इस समय रिपब्लिक की पूरी टीम बताने की कोशिश कर रही है. मैं अपने सहयोगी से कहूंगा एक तस्वीर और दिखाइए. देखिए किसी बच्चे की साइकिल यहाँ पर पड़ी हुई है, और लोग यहाँ पर रह रहे थे, किसी का सामान यहाँ पर है, कुछ किसी को समझ नहीं आया. खाने पीने का सामान हमें अंदर दिखाई दे रहा है. ये पूरा यहाँ पर किचन बना हुआ था, उस तक को तबाह कर दिया है. एसी लोगों के घरों के सब कुछ एकदम से तबाह हो गया. ये वही इलाका है, ये वही जगह है. मैं फिर से कहूंगा कीव के बीचों बीच ये धमाका, पूरी दुनिया को देखना चाहिए कि कैसे इस धमाके को अंजाम दिया. और मैं एक तस्वीर और दिखाने की कोशिश करूंगा कि ये वो रिहायशी इलाका है, ये कोई मिलिट्री बेस नहीं है. कीव के बीचों बीच ये बम धमाका हुआ है. यहाँ से सुबह हमने एयरक्राफ्ट की तस्वीरें देखी, यही वो आसमान जहां से एयरक्राफ्ट गुजरे और फिर उन्होंने धमाका किया. धमाका किस तरीके से, कितनी तीव्रता का था, अब मैं आपको वो समझाने की कोशिश करूंगा कि उसकी तीव्रता कितनी थी. तीव्रता इतनी थी कि आप वहां तक नजर दौड़ाएंगे. देखिए वहां से शुरू करिए, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, कम से कम 14 बिल्डिंग है. 14 बिल्डिंग, 14 इमारतें, सब कुछ तबाह हो गई, जलकर राख हो गई. लोग जो हैं वो घायल अवस्था में अस्पताल में इस समय जिंदगी और मौत की जंग लड़ रहे हैं. मैं थोड़ा सा और आगे जाने की कोशिश करूंगा और तस्वीरें हम दिखाने की कोशिश करेंगे कि घर के अंदर माहौल क्या है. अभी भी देखिए, अभी भी यहाँ पर जो ऊपर से सामान है वो गिर रहा है. किसी की जैकेट टंगी हुई है. देखिए मैं अपने सहयोगी से कहूंगा सुरेंद्र जी, आप वो तस्वीर दिखाइए. किसी की जैकेट वहां पर टंगी हुई है और अभी भी कुछ लोग जो है अंदर अपना सामान निकाल रहे हैं, बचा कुचा जो सामान है वो निकालने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। और यहाँ देखिए, यहाँ थोड़ा आगे जाना खतरे से खाली नहीं है, लेकिन ये देखिए आप, पूरा का पूरा इलाका कैसे बम के बाद, धमाके के बाद तबाह हो गया है। यहाँ पर पूरे के पूरे जो कांच थे, जो इंसुलेशन रॉड्स थी, वो सब कुछ टूटकर तबाह हो गई हैं। और ये देखिए ऊपर कुछ लोग अभी भी सामान निकाल रहे हैं। और ये तस्वीरें वाकई में बहुत कुछ कहती हैं। मैं कहूँगा थोड़ा सा पीछे हट जाए सुरेंद्र जी, यहाँ से ये तस्वीर थोड़ा सा पीछे हटकर ये तस्वीरें दिखाएं, पीछे हटकर ये तस्वीरें दिखाएं। ये देखिए आप, अभी भी कोशिश यही की जा रही है कि इन सामानों को फेंका जाए और इसी को निकालने के लिए यूक्रेन के लोग यहाँ पर पहुँच गए हैं। लोग बहुत बड़ी संख्या में इस समय यहाँ पर इकट्ठा हुए हैं। लोगों के मन में डर का माहौल भी है और ये तस्वीरें वाकई बहुत कुछ बयां करती हैं। ऊपर तक देखिए, मैं जहाँ तक नज़र दौड़ा रहा हूँ वहाँ पर कांच के टुकड़े, तबाही का मंजर हमें नज़र आ रहा है। और यहाँ कुछ लोग यहाँ पर रह रहे थे, मुझे नहीं पता कि वो कहाँ हैं, लेकिन घर के और बिल्डिंग के बाहर जब हम देखते हैं तो बड़ी तादाद में लोग जो है अपने घर की ओर निकल रहे हैं। ये आप तस्वीरें देखिए, ये यहाँ से अभी भी सामान निकालने की कोशिश की जा रही है। क्या कोई शख्स वहाँ पर मौजूद है? कोई घर के अंदर तो मौजूद नहीं है, कोई घायल अवस्था में तो नहीं है। इन तमाम चीज़ों का भी ख्याल रखा जा रहा है, देखा जा रहा है। और ये देखिए आप, एक शख्स ऊपर कोशिश कर रहा है कि वो अपना बचा कुचा सामान यहाँ से बचा सके, निकाल सके, लेकिन ये तस्वीर बहुत कुछ कहती है। ये दुनिया को देखनी चाहिए तस्वीर की, जो बातें कही जा रही हैं उससे इतर यहाँ धमाके से कितना नुकसान हुआ है, धमाके के बाद क्या हाल हो गया है इस पूरे के पूरे इलाके का। और ये देखिए, कुछ लोग वहाँ पर भी हमें नज़र आ रहे हैं, कई जगह से कोई कुछ फेंक रहा है, कुछ सामान अपना इकट्ठा करने की कोशिश कर रहा है। मैं थोड़ी सी और आगे जाने की कोशिश करूंगा और फिर आपको जहां से बिल्डिंग में तीव्रता, जहां तक धमाके की सुनाई दी, वहां से हम फिर उस जगह पर आएंगे जहां पर धमाका हुआ है। थोड़ा सा आगे हम जाते हैं और देखिए, मैं आपको बताने की कोशिश करूंगा कि कितने मीटर तक इसका असर हुआ है। यहाँ देखिए, हमारी टीम पहुंची और देखिए वहां पर अभी भी सामान गिर रहा है। कोई भरोसा नहीं है, कोई अपना सामान निकालने की कोशिश कर रहा है। देखिए, घरों के अंदर लोग डरे हुए, सहमे हुए से अपने सामान का इंतजार करते हुए। यहां से देखिए, जहां तक आप नजर दौड़ाएंगे वहां पर आपको कांच के टुकड़े दिखाई देंगे। हम भी संभल कर चल रहे हैं और यहां से अब एक तस्वीर हम दिखाने की कोशिश करेंगे। मैं अपने सहयोगी से कहूंगा कि यहां वो आए और एक घर में किस तरीके का माहौल है। यहां से सुरेंद्र जी, लोग सामान तो निकाल ही रहे हैं अपना। यहीं से हम आगे बढ़ेंगे। देखिए, यहां से हम आगे बढ़ेंगे, पीछे तक आपको दिख रहा होगा किस तरीके का तबाही का मंजर है। अब हम यहां से आपको बताते हैं। देखिए, जहां तक आपकी नजर जाएगी वहां तक आपको कांच के टुकड़े दिखाई देंगे। जहां तक नजर जाएगी वहां कांच के टुकड़े हैं। और फिर इसके आगे हम बढ़ेंगे और हाँ जी, थोड़ा सा रेस्ट ले लीजिए। हाथ
Just live, the only channel live from the attack site. They're reporting the attack site from the attack site as it happened. A reporter's diary from Kyiv. Shravan Sen, Mridul and Rawat on the move there, on their foot. They've been moving from one location to another in Kyiv. A short while back, captured attack helicopters just on the outskirts of Kyiv, where we are hearing that fighting is on. And we saw pictures of those tanks. In fact, let me just take this time to give our team a breather to also recharge their batteries there. It's not easy to be reporting from the war zone on the move without any accommodation or charging points or even having a vehicle. They're on the foot, on their foot, moving from one location to another. So I'll take a short break. I'll give them a few minutes. We'll come back to the live coverage.
Last location from where I sent my dispatch, there were two explosions that actually took place, which was in a nearby area. One big point is Sast. There are 50 Russian occupiers who were taken down.
We still hear a lot of audible shelling in the distance. We don't know which way it's going, where it's going to end up, but there's a lot of people on the street.
Amity has been ranked India's #1 not-for-profit private university for 9 years, with top 10 ranked institutions in management, engineering, biotech, law, mass comm, telecom, hospitality, fashion and more. yet another top ranking for Amity University.
The last location from where I sent my dispatch, there were two explosions that actually took place, which was in a nearby area. One big point is Sast. There are 50 Russian occupiers who were taken down.
We still hear a lot of audible shelling in the distance. We don't know which way it's going, where it's going to end up, but there's a lot of people on the street.
हमारी टीम भी उसी सड़क पर मौजूद है जहां से धमाके हो रहे हैं। पूरा का पूरा शहर खाली हो गया है। शवन, पूरा शहर खाली हो, कोई नहीं है, दूर दूर तक सिर्फ और सिर्फ सन्नाटा है और शोर है तो सिर्फ और सिर्फ धमाकों का। लाइव तस्वीर रिपब्लिक भारत पर एक्सक्लूसिव। टैंक के साथ साथ रिपब्लिक भारत की टीम आगे बढ़ रही है। यूक्रेन की जो आर्मी है वो साथ में। ये तस्वीर आप देखिए, ये तस्वीर देखिए, टैंक जो है वो आगे बढ़ गया है और यहां से खाली करा दिया। ये तस्वीर वाकई शवन बहुत बड़ी तस्वीर है कि सड़कों पर टैंक है, रिहायशी इलाके में टैंक और पूरा का पूरा इलाका खाली है। यहाँ से जो प्रशासन है उन्होंने सबसे कह दिया है कि आप निकल जाइए और जो गाड़ियां हैं वो अब अपने शहरों की तरफ मूव कर चुकी हैं। यहाँ की जो तस्वीरें हैं वो वाकई डराने वाली है। लोग खौफ में हैं, लोग डरे हुए हैं और लोग यहाँ से निकल रहे हैं। इस समय हम वेलविक्या में मौजूद हैं और दुकानें देखिए पूरी बंद हो गई हैं। शहर भर में सुबह धमाकों की आवाज आती है। धमाकों के बाद लोग गाड़ियों को लेकर एक जगह से दूसरी जगह भागना चाहते हैं। पुलिस की लगातार पेट्रोलिंग होती है। रशिया की जो आर्मी है वो एक पास में बेस कैंप है, वहां पर जो उनके फाइटर जेट्स उतर सकते हैं वहां पर उन्होंने कब्जा कर लिया है।
जहां से अब हम लोग इस वक्त जो रिपोर्टिंग करें पोल्टावा के इलाके से, पोल्टावा के इलाके में भी कुछ एक्सप्लोजन्स हुए थे। लुहांस, जहां से रिपब्लिक भारत कल शाम को रिपोर्ट कर रहे थे, उस इलाके में रूस की ट्रूप्स ऑलरेडी घुस चुके हैं। मार्शल लॉ लग चुका है, जिसके कारण आप देख रहे हैं इस वक्त लोग घर से निकलना चाह रहे हैं।
बड़ी संख्या में लोग हैं। कीव की तरफ लोग जा रहे हैं। बोल्गोरोड इलाका।
और इसी तरह से लोग कहीं ना कहीं डर उनके ऊपर बैठा है क्योंकि आने वाले जो कुछ एरियाज हैं वहाँ पे धमाके हुए हैं, जिसके कारण देखिए इसमें सब लोग रास्ते में आ चुके हैं। और हम लोग इस वक्त जो रिपोर्टिंग कर रहे हैं पोल्टावा से कुछ ही दूरी में, जहाँ से हम लोग रिपोर्टिंग कर रहे हैं। Last location from where I sent my dispatch, there were two explosions that actually took place, which was in a nearby area. One big point is Sast. There are 50 Russian occupiers who were taken down.
We still hear a lot of audible shelling in the distance. We don't know which way it's going, where it's going to end up, but there's a lot of people on the street.
टीम भी उसी सड़क पर मौजूद है जहां से धमाके हो रहे हैं। पूरा का पूरा शहर खाली हो गया है। शवन, पूरा शहर खाली हो, कोई नहीं है, दूर दूर तक सिर्फ और सिर्फ सन्नाटा है और शोर है तो सिर्फ और सिर्फ धमाकों का। लाइव तस्वीर रिपब्लिक